Tensions are heating up on the northern front as Israel launched strikes against Hezbollah targets in Lebanon overnight. Israel is accusing the Iranian-backed terror proxy of attempting to rehabilitate and rearm in clear violation of the ceasefire agreement and is threatening more action. The IDF struck and eliminated 3 Hezbollah terrorist and multiple terrorist infrastructure sites in Lebanon overnight. The army identified one of the terrorists as Samir Ali Faki, who smuggled weapons for Hezbollah across Lebanon. Among the targets struck included a rocket launching site in southern Lebanon, including weapons that the army says were aimed directly at Israel, as well as several strategic weapons and other terrorist infrastructure. The IDF said that Hezbollah is continuing to attempt to rehabilitate its terror assets across Lebanon in clear violation of the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Lebanon. Israel is reportedly pressing Lebanon's army to be more aggressive in disarming the Iranian-backed terror proxy by searching private homes in the south for weapons. According to Reuters, this demand has been rejected by Lebanon's military leadership, who fear it would ignite civil strife and derail the army's disarmament strategy. With one Lebanese security official telling the publication the army is confident it can declare Lebanon's south free of Hezbollah arms by the end of 2025. Yet Israel is not convinced as it continues to see Hezbollah attempts at rehabilitation in the south and has threatened that should Lebanon fail to uphold its agreement and fully dismantle Hezbollah, Israel will be forced to intervene to finish the job. And in Gaza, the U.S. and Israel are continuing their coordination on upholding the ceasefire while Hamas is reportedly rearming and gaining more control over its side of the yellow line. Meanwhile, a new exclusive report reveals a possible new U.S. base on the Gaza envelope. The details in the following report. The United States is reportedly planning a $500 million base near Israel's Gaza border. This according to an exclusive report by Israeli website Shomrim. According to the report, which cited Israeli officials familiar with the initial plans, the facility would be used by the international forces operating inside Gaza to maintain the ceasefire and disarm Hamas, and would include several thousand troops. The report also stated that potential locations are already being scouted in the Gaza envelope. One senior-level security source cited said that this base represents a major shift in U.S. engagement in Gaza, adding that, quote, Israel has sought to minimize international involvement in the territories. The establishment of an American base on Israeli soil shows just how determined Washington is to be involved in Gaza and the broader Israeli-Palestinian conflict, end quote. To date, only around 200 U.S. soldiers have been deployed to Israel to operate the U.S. Central Military Coordination Center, or CMCC, in Kiryat Gat. The CMCC is already in the process of taking over humanitarian aid distribution in Gaza from Israel's Kogat. Meanwhile, on Monday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with White House advisor Jared Kushner in his office in Jerusalem. Also in attendance at the meeting were Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer and U.S. Envoy Steve Witkoff, along with his advisor Arya Lightstone. The meeting reportedly focused on the implementation of the second phase of U.S. President Donald Trump's Gaza peace plan, including the demilitarization of Gaza and the elimination of Hamas from any future role in the Strip. The meeting also came as the U.S. is reportedly pressuring Israel to release around 200 Hamas terrorists who are currently hiding underground in tunnels in the IDF-controlled side of the Yellow Line, in return for certain concessions, a move Israel opposes. As such, some critics in Israel are questioning who is really calling the shots in Gaza now, as Jerusalem continues to insist that all decisions are being implemented in full collaboration with the United States. And following his meeting Monday at the White House with U.S. President Donald Trump, Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara said overnight that his country will not enter direct negotiations with Israel at this time over joining the Abraham Accords. However, he did not rule out the possibility of such talks later, perhaps with U.S. assistance. ILTV's Devo Klein has more.
Speaking from the Oval Office, U.S. President Donald Trump concluded his meeting with Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara with positive words.
We want to see Syria become a country that's very successful, and I think this leader can do it. I really do. I think this leader can do it. And people said he's had a rough past. We've all had rough pasts. But he has had a rough past. And I think, frankly, if you didn't have a rough past, you wouldn't have a chance.
Trump added that his vision for peace in the Middle East includes the former al-Qaeda member.
I liked him. I get along with him, the new president of Syria. And we'll do everything we can to make Syria successful because that's part of the Middle East. We have peace now in the Middle East, first time that anyone can remember that ever happening.
During the White House meeting, the two leaders discussed several key issues, including U.S.-mediated security arrangements between Israel and Syria, aimed at regulating the shared border between the countries, as following the fall of the Assad regime, Israeli forces took control of certain areas in the Syrian Golan. But when it comes to relations with Israel and the potential to join the Abraham Accords, al-Shara told President Trump that diplomacy between Israel and Syria will only occur through U.S. mediation. According to Ynet, Shara said, quote, "We are not going to enter into negotiations directly right now. Maybe the United States administration with President Trump will help us reach this kind of negotiation." Al-Shara told Fox News that the meeting lasted nearly 2 hours and described them as, quote, "amazing." He reported that President Trump gave him a MAGA cap and said he intends to take it back to Syria with him.
And joining us now with more on the latest along Israel's northern border is Major Avraham Levine from the Alma Research and Education Center. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So let's start with Lebanon. Israel is intensifying its strikes against Hezbollah as they are in clear violation of the ceasefire agreement. The Lebanese are claiming on their part that they are slowly but surely disarming the terror group. Israel says that's not the case. I mean, what is your assessment of what's happening? And is Israel heading for another war with Hezbollah?
Well, I'd start by saying that I'm not even sure this escalation is that critical. Israel has been attacking in Lebanon for the past year since we signed the ceasefire, once or twice a day. We've counted over 640 attacks since November 27th, a year ago, in Lebanon, in South Lebanon, Beirut area, and in the Bekaa Valley. So not only in South Lebanon. So we see that happening all the time. I don't think anything changed in that sense. I'm waiting for proof. I'd like to see the Lebanese government, Lebanese army that are in charge of disarming Hezbollah. I'd like to see the weapons. Where are they going? Where are the weapons that they found? IDF was very open in showing the whole world hundreds and hundreds of missiles, rockets, anti-tank missiles, drones that we found in only a couple of months, only in South Lebanon. Now the Lebanese army has been working for a year. I'm still waiting for proof that they're finding, that they're taking, that they're destroying Hezbollah arms, Irani arms, Russian missiles in South Lebanon. Right now, we don't see that proof.
We don't see that proof, absolutely. And I do want to move on to Syria as well. You know, U.S. President Trump met yesterday with the Syrian president. Trump had some kind words for al-Shara. I mean, how would you characterize their meeting? And what was the purpose of the meeting?
Well, I'd start by saying we all have a tough history, or a bad past is not necessarily true. Some of the leaders don't. But I'd say I'm happy Syria is in a better place than they used to be. I hope the Syrian people can get something better of life than they had under Assad. On the other hand, I think we should be concerned about his past, Julani's past. Everyone else can call him Ashara, but I still remember his jihadist nickname, El Julani. Maybe that's the reason he doesn't want to move on to the Abraham Accords so fast. But seeing ex-Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, Jabhat al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda, visiting New York and Ground Zero last week, and visiting the White House now, leaves me with concerns about our security. And I think that's where Israel should stand. We do have common interests with Julani. We all want a stable country neighboring our northern border. We all want the weapons coming in from Syria to Hezbollah to stop. Julani's working on that, and IDF is working on that. So in that sense, I think we should negotiate with him about better security understandings, about the border. But I guess I agree with Julani. A peace process is yet to start.
And Al-Shara, or Julani, he was constantly saying that he wants peace with Israel. But in his meeting with Trump in recent weeks, he's been a lot more cautious with his rhetoric. I mean, why do you think that is? And do you foresee a future where Syria will join the Abraham Accords?
Well, you have to remember his past and his alliances internally in Syria. And I think when half of your army commanders have jihadist history, I think he's careful to say, I'm going to jump in with Israel immediately. And he's taking it step by step. I think it's extremely smart on his side to not rely only on Erdogan and to look for more partnerships and cooperations with Europe as well as US, representing himself well as a new leader and allowing everyone else to put aside his history. I think that's smart on his side. We have to be careful and remember who he was and be prepared for what happens if he doesn't hold up and is not able to bring together all the different parts of Syria and continue the battle inside. There's a way to go before he has a stable country in his hands.
So still a long ways to go until absolute peace in the Middle East, as Trump likes to say. Major Avram Levine, thank you so much for your insights today.
My pleasure.
Turn up the volume. I am Chaim Biros, Mayor of Modi'in and Chairman of the Federation of Local Authorities in Israel. It's time to join us in Modi'in, City of the Future. We are waiting to welcome you to our young, modern, innovative city with great schools and of course all the benefits. Hope you will make Aliyah soon and join our Olim community who are so happy to call Modi'in their home. Now is the time to make Aliyah. See you soon.
Israel is strong and growing. Now more than ever is the time to make Aliyah.
And as Israel continues to mourn the fallen hostages whose bodies have been returning over the past few weeks, one name that has again captured the nation's attention is Hadar Goldin. Goldin, who was an officer in the IDF, was killed and taken into Gaza during the 2014 war. His remains were returned this week, allowing his family and the country to finally lay him to rest. Our correspondent, India Naftali, is live in Hostage Square with more. India, what can you tell us?
Yes, Lidar, I'm here in Hostage Square, where flags and posters are still being hung in honor of the fallen hostages who still have not been returned. One of those fallen hostages who did return this week is, of course, Hadar Goldin, whose funeral happened this morning at the Kfar Saba Military Cemetery. Now, they already had a funeral for him back in 2014 when they had enough proof of death to hold the ceremony, but now that his body's returned, they're giving him a proper burial. It's a somber morning of closure in the city of Kfar Saba in central Israel. Thousands attended the funeral of IDF soldier Hadar Goldin. 11 years have passed since he fell in battle in southern Gaza during Operation Protective Edge. His place of burial was declared as unknown. The 23-year-old soldier was killed in 2014 when Hamas terrorists ambushed his unit in a tunnel attack. His body was kidnapped and held hostage in the Gaza Strip for more than a decade. Today, his family, friends, and commanders gathered to honor his memory. At the funeral, IDF Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir made a powerful declaration that Operation Protective Edge is finally over.
בהצדעה ובהרכנת ראש אנחנו מלווים היום את הדר בדרכו האחרונה שלה היה ראוי מזמן. לוחמי סיירת גבעתי, חברי הצוות של הדר, לחמתם לצידו במבצע צוק איתן. התגייסתם ונלחמתם גם במערכה הנוכחית בגבורה. לכם, כמו לצה"ל כולו ולמדינה, המעגל נסגר. מבצע צוק איתן הסתיים.
Hadar's mother traveled the world advocating for his release, even speaking before the UN. Here's what she shared today about how they persevered for so long.
Hadar, חיכינו לך 11 שנים. זה המון זמן. המון. אין לי באמת הסבר איך עשינו את זה, חוץ שבכל רגע ששקענו, היה מישהו במשפחה ואומר, היה קופץ ואומר, אבל מה הדר היה אומר? בדרך כלל זו הייתה איילת. אז אנחנו פה בגלל כל מה שהשארת לנו, כל הוראות ההפעלה שלך, ומי שאתה.
The ceremony reflected Israel's deep-rooted commitment to never leave a soldier behind. It's a national promise that every fallen troop will be brought home, no matter how long it takes. Hadar Goldin, who became a symbol of this principle, has finally been laid to rest.
And in other news, Americans for Ben-Gurion University has launched the David Ben-Gurion Speaks, an AI-powered video series that brings Israel's founding prime minister to life. Let's take a look.
I am David Ben-Gurion, and 50 years after my death, my namesake, Ben-Gurion University, has bloomed into an oasis of innovation in the Negev desert. 20,000 students on campuses in Be'er Sheva, Sdei Boker, and Eilat study desert and water resource, sustainable drylands, alternative energy, global health, medical breakthroughs, robotics, and fields unknown in my time, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity. My friends, it is not enough to be up to date. You have to be up to tomorrow. Israel's future was rising from the Negev, just as I had envisioned. And so they came to destroy it.
And Israeli President Isaac Herzog is currently in Zambia on an official visit to the African nation. He received a warm welcome Monday at the presidential palace, where he held diplomatic meetings and bilateral sessions aimed at strengthening relations. Joining us now with more on this visit and on Israel's broader strategy of deepening ties with African countries is Shiri Fein-Grossman, CEO of the Israel-Africa Relations Institute. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So let's start with the president's current visit. I mean, can you tell us a little bit about the significance of his visit to Zambia?
Yes, this is an important visit. We haven't had an Israeli president visit Zambia in decades, and the DRC as well. Both the Democratic Republic of Congo, or in short DRC, and Zambia, which is planned as part of the plan of the trip, are very important regional countries. Zambia and DRC both enrich in resources. Zambia more on the southern part of the continent, and DRC being in the center of the continent and being the largest country of the continent, and has the most mineral resources in the country, some in very high percentage of the world, what's the resource of the world. So both are extremely important, and also both are strong allies of the United States these days, with an infrastructure project, a very big one that is called the Lobito Corridor, which is a project to connect from the Lobito port in Angola to Zambia. A railway that never existed between Zambia and the DRC to the Copper Belt area of the DRC. It's part of this big competition between China and the US over resources and minerals. So I view it as Israel aligning with U.S. interests, but both Israel's interests, and really strengthening its friendships on the continent. And I have to say, DRC and Zambia are strong supporters of Israel. We've just seen the reopening of an Israeli embassy in Lusaka in Zambia after many years, and we at the Israel-Africa Relations Institute have recommended to do so and to open more embassies throughout Africa. So this is a very exciting and happy day for us as well.
So absolutely, and Africa is an area that, has largely been neglected by the Israeli government, for example, in the past few decades, but there is a renewed push already from a few years ago to try and improve, to try and deepen relations. I mean, what can you tell us about this and about the importance of Israeli-African relations, especially at a time, when we see some of Israel's relations with other countries that have soured?
Exactly. The time is now. Everybody's competing over Africa's friendship. We talk a lot about the Abraham Accords and its importance. Unfortunately, we talk about it about a whole lot more, and sometimes I speak about it as well. But actually, the GCC countries are fighting over partnerships in Africa. UAE is currently the greatest, the biggest investor, more than China, in Africa. So everybody's now rushing to be Africa's friends, and Israel should definitely be in the game. Historically, our relationship with Africa started 3,000 years ago with the Queen of Sheba visiting King Solomon, up to Golda Meir and Ben Gurion's strategy of helping the young countries. Although Israel was only a young country, it really gave its hand to kind of help the new countries in Africa out of colonialism and to help it grow.
So from an historic relationship to a modern day one, Shiri Fein-Grossman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
And today we once again have the pleasure of hearing from Yael Eckstein, president of the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, as she brings us the latest highlights and inspiring updates from the fellowship's ongoing work.
Shalom from here in Israel. I'm Yael Eckstein, and here are two fellowship projects that you should know about this week. Number one, the fellowship learned that in the city of Tiberias, there were many people who were suffering from food insecurity. After 2 years of war, there were people suffering. They couldn't afford food, and they couldn't find basic food items. And so the fellowship opened up a soup kitchen. And so now, in the city of Tiberias, the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is distributing over 150 food boxes every single day to people in need. Number two, I want you to meet Valentina. She's 85 years old, and she's just one of so many people who get helped by the fellowship. She's been living alone for over 2 years since her husband died. She has no one to visit her, no one to help her, and we learned recently she doesn't have enough to buy both her medications, to pay her rent, and to buy food. And every single month, a volunteer delivers to Valentina a food box with everything that she needs. This is saving lives physically and spiritually. Well, there you have it, friends. There are two fellowship projects that you now know about. Join me next week, same place, same time, for more updates on what's happening here in the Holy Land at the fellowship. Shalom.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Cloudy skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of 17 degrees Celsius or 63 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see cloudy skies alongside steady temperatures with highs of 26 degrees Celsius or 79 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels and our new live channel. And you can also catch us on Screen IL with 24/7 live coverage. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Hadar Goldin. Be well, and thank you so much for watching.